Hi, I'm Alex. If you're new here, welcome. If not, welcome back. If you've watched my videos before, you're probably like, where are you? This is our bedroom. I pinched a nerve in my back and cannot sit in my office or like on the floor or anything. Only this specific chair has been like okay for me, so this is what we're doing today. I wanted to film my October reading wrap up and my November TBR. To be fully honest, I'm sort of disappointed in myself for what happened last month. I had a great reading month in terms of the books I read and how much I enjoyed them, but a pretty bad reading month in terms of the number of books. And this is not to say if you read this many books that you had a bad reading month, but for me, I read 12 to 18 books a month on average, so this was definitely a below average month for me. We did get some news at the beginning of the month that is very exciting and has kept me a little distracted, which will be shared eventually, but for now, here's what I consider a bad reading month for me. So I started this month reading Butcher and Blackbird by Brynne Weaver. If you've never heard of this book, it's on Kindle Unlimited, but it's a dark rom-com, which is just like the concept of that in itself is so funny. But I would say that it sort of combines like the Mindfuck series with like any typical rom-com. It's about two serial killers who both only kill bad guys, and they get into sort of a competition of who can find and kill their target first, which is really fun. I mean, don't do that, but for the concept of the book, it's really fun. I rated it, I think 4.5 stars. I really enjoyed it. It was really close to 5 for me. It had me like giggling and kicking my feet, and honestly, I thought it was funny. One of the trigger warnings is accidental cannibalism, which is just like, what even is that? And it's honestly hilarious. So would highly recommend Butcher and Blackbird. I've recommended so many of my friends to read it already, so if you haven't yet, like I said, it's on Kindle Unlimited. Pick it up, it's so good. The second book that I read this month, I also don't have physically, was Heir of Fire by Sarah J Maas, so the third book in the Throne of Glass series, and I enjoyed it. I thought it was good. I had the audio book on Libby and just kept putting off listening to it, so then I had to listen to the entire audiobook in like less than 18 hours or something before it was due, which was a little wild on my end, but I did enjoy it a lot. I think that Reese is still my number one Sarah J Maas book boyfriend, but I know that a lot of people don't agree with that, so I'll just leave that there. I rated it 4 stars. I'm definitely still an ACOTAR girly over Throne of Glass. I think that the third POV really throws it off for me, and also there's just too much going on in these books, and not to like hate on them by any means because they are fabulous, phenomenal books, but for my like undiagnosed ADHD brain, there's a lot of storylines to try to follow and it can be a little confusing. So I like it. I don't want that to sound like I don't, but I definitely preferred ACOTAR, at least up to this point. The next book I read this month, I'm trying to remember the order, is A Deadly Education by Naomi Novik. I read this for my Reading Dark Academia for a Week vlog. If you want in-depth thoughts, they will be there. I rated it 3.5 stars, but also annotated the crap out of it. There's so many underlines in this book, and immediately went to buy book 2. I just thought it had a really slow start for me, but the last like 60% was phenomenal and had me hooked. So I definitely think that The Last Graduate will be on my TBR soon. I'm not sure if it'll be on in November just because there are so many new releases and I already feel behind and a little overwhelmed, but that is that. The next book that I finished this month was The House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune. To be totally honest, I bought this book because of the sprayed edges. I'm glad that I have it. I'm glad that I read it. It's a young adult, like cozy fantasy, I would say. There's nothing super high stakes. It's about a man who goes to like magical orphanages to make sure that the children are being treated right, basically. So he's like a social worker for magical youth. And yeah, this one's fun. I rated it, I believe 3.5 stars as well. Just a little cozy fantasy if that's what you're looking for. The next book that I read this month was The Maidens by Alex Michaelides. Oh, my book got a little bent. If you liked The Silent Patient, I would recommend picking this up, but it's not going to be anywhere near as like crazy as The Silent Patient. This is a dark academia thriller based sort of on Greek mythology a little bit, and it was good. It left me confused for a long time. I like had a book hangover from reading this because I needed to like deep dive and research. Again, this one is in my Dark Academia reading blog if you want more in-depth thoughts on it. The next book that I read this month, I took a little break from the Dark Academia to read Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross. This honestly feels like I read it like 3 years ago, even though it was 3 weeks ago. I didn't say, I rated The Maidens 4 stars. I've rated Divine Rivals 4.5. I've heard people say you're either a Fourth Wing girly or a Divine Rivals girly, and I definitely preferred Fourth Wing, but I did really like this book. If you have not heard about it somehow, it is about two like writers for a newspaper who they are rivals, and they have these typewriters that are like magically connected to each other, and they like send letters back and forth, but they don't know who they're talking to. I will say one thing I feel like I did not hear a lot about this book was that they go to war to be journalists, and that might be a spoiler, but it's a very like war heavy book. I would say it read more like historical fiction with some elements of magical realism than fantasy for me. Not that it wasn't great, but I just thought that it being put out there that it's just a fantasy book is incorrect. I will say it's the most accurate depiction of war I've read in a fiction novel. A lot about being in the trenches and what that is like, which I feel like a lot of like war books focus on like the raw hurrah fighting, and that's not what this one is, but I did really enjoy Divine Rivals. Sorry, they're doing yard work outside. If you can hear that, I apologize. But the next book I read this month was The Secret History by Donna Tartt. Again, this is in my Dark Academia reading blog. If you want more in-depth thoughts, I rated it 2.5 stars. I really hated this book. I see why people think it is a literary work of art, but it was not my cup of tea. My favorite thing about it was that I don't ever have to read it again. So that's The Secret History by Donna Tartt. The next book that I read this month was The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. This is a book that I have been putting off for so long because I've just heard so many good things about it that it made me scared, but also on the other side of that, so many people being like, this is boring, why am I reading this? I ate this book up. I loved it. It was one of those that I like put off finishing because I just didn't want it to be over. I rated this 4.5 stars, but it was a debate for me whether it was going to be 4.5 or 5. I even bought the book with the non-perfect edges, which really annoys me, but I needed to have this on my shelf, and I'm so glad that I read it this month. If you have not heard of The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, it is about a woman who trades needing to be like sold into marriage essentially for her freedom, and she makes a deal with the devil to do that. except when you make a deal with the devil, it's never straightforward, and nobody knows her name. Nobody remembers her after meeting her, and she's just very lonely for her whole life after that. So this book was absolutely incredible. I also have recommended it to so many people already, and would highly recommend. The last book that I read, oh, they're all falling. The last book that I read in October was Queen of Shadows by Sarah J. Maas. This is the first, well, that's a lie, because I physically read Throne of Glass. The last, Crown of Midnight and Heir of Fire, I listened to the audiobook for both of them, so I went back to reading the physical book and was like, oh, maybe that will like make these books better for me, because they're my best friend's favorite books. So I feel bad not loving them, but I decided to pick up the actual book, well, the Kindle book, and read Queen of Shadows. It took me a little under 3 days. It was like 2 days and a few hours to read it. I got through it really fast, although I kept picking up my phone while reading it. I could not like stay focused on the book. I would put down my Kindle, pick up my phone, put down my Kindle, pick up my phone, and I couldn't stop doing that. So I started just like dragging myself out to like Starbucks or to go get like a smoothie bowl or something, and would sit and read while I was eating, so I would not pick up my phone. So by the time I finally got through it, I also rated this one 4 stars. I enjoyed it more than Heir of Fire, but still not as much as the ACOTAR books. I really enjoyed some of the characters in this. I enjoyed some of the character arcs in this. I was very shocked by some of those. Yeah, it was good. I enjoyed it. I immediately went and put a hold on Tower of Dawn and Empire of Storms so I can do the tandem read. My Tower of Dawn hold is ready, so I'm just waiting for Empire of Storms, and then we will get into that one. But let me go grab the books for my November TBR, and I will be right back. Okay, so starting with new releases, because November is a huge new release month, which is really exciting, but also slightly overwhelming. There are 3 books coming out this month that I am extremely excited about, and they are all coming out on the same day. The first of those books is Iron Flame. I feel like everybody and their mother is excited for this one to come out. I am going, as long as my back feels better, I will be going to the midnight release next week. My Barnes is doing like a little party, and then I already have my like special edition pre-ordered, and it should be coming in on Tuesday. And I also, of course, got the Christmas edition of Iron Flame, or the holiday edition, because it's beautiful and I need to have it. So that is number 1 and the most important to me this month. The second book that I'm really excited about is Love Redesigned by Lauren Asher. I have read all of the Dirty Air series, all of the Dreamland Billionaire series, and I am ready for more Lauren Asher in my life, and to be back in Lake Wisteria, because The Final Offer was my favorite book in Dreamland Billionaires. So I'm extremely excited for that to come out. And then the third new release that comes out on November 7th is Check and Mate by Ali Hazelwood. It's her first like YA novel, and I can't wait. Ali Hazelwood is one of my favorite authors, and from the people who have arcs of it, it sounds incredible. I can't wait to have it in my hands. Moving on to a couple of Kindle reads. So like I said, I'm going to do the tandem read this month as soon as Empire of Storms is available, unless it's not available until November 7th, in which case Iron Flame takes priority. But I would like to read Tower of Dawn and Empire of Storms this month, and if I have time, Assassin's Blade, because I did not read it at the beginning. I was told I just needed to read it before Kingdom of Ash, so I am probably going to read it right before Kingdom of Ash. We'll see. Also on my Kindle, I want to read Done and Dusted. I can't remember who the author is, but I know everybody has said it's a super like quick, fun read, which I would like right now. And then the last one, I just downloaded Christmas in Coconut Creek, which, yes, is a Christmas book, but I'm in the vibes. If my back wasn't in pain, my tree would already be up, so I wanted to read that one this month. And then moving on to a couple of physical books, I want to read All In by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. This is the third book in the Naturals series. I've taken a break for a couple of months just because I've been reading other things, but I am excited to get back into this world. I read the first 18 pages of it, but we'll probably have to reread them. But I'm excited for this. And then this one was on my TBR for last month, but I am determined to get to it this month. It is Wildfire by Hannah Grace. This is the second book in the Maple Hills series. I don't know how many there are going to be, but it's the second book to Icebreaker. I put off reading Icebreaker for so long, and it was one of my like favorite romance books of the year, so I was thrilled for Wildfire to come out. I went and got it before its release day because it got put out in Barnes early. I've heard incredible things, that this is so much better than Icebreaker, that people love it so much, so I can't wait to read this one. But that is everything that I read in October and what I would like to read in November. If you've read any of the books on my TBR, let me know what you think I should start with, or what you think of them. But thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.